Okay, I think we should start. Some people are here more than 5 minutes now, so it's more than fair to start now. Good evening, everybody, and or good morning, depends where you are. So thanks for joining. This is my first webinar for Power BI, and this is directed for the newbies at Power BI, the people who want to start learning Power BI and have maybe seen or heard a little bit about it, and this is exactly for you. I've set this webinar today for 2 hours. If we extend it, it's not a problem. If we are finished earlier and you don't have any questions or so on, it's also not a problem. We can close it earlier. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. Will you register? You mean record the meeting, Betim? Yes, the meeting is being recorded, and I will upload it later on on my YouTube channel. I will post it on LinkedIn then, the link.
Yeah, I didn't notice a recording. Okay, now I see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
No worries. As I was saying, I forgot what I was saying, but as I was saying, this is the meeting. This is a webinar for beginners at Power BI, and we will take a look what we are going to see today. But before we go on that, I would like to do a short presentation of myself. My name is Enea Lichai. I'm a Power Platform consultant in Cologne, Germany. That's also the place where I live. I was born in Tirana, so I am from Albania, but I live in Germany for now almost 11 years. Yeah, and I'm 31 years old almost, and I work as a Power Platform consultant, and this is also a hobby of mine. So I also do it on private a lot. So like this webinar, for example, and other stuff, which you can find here. As you can see, you can find me on my YouTube channel with my name. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, posting everything around the Power Platform, also questions and so on. And you can also check out my website. I will post a link in the chat for those 3 stuff. So you can find everything in that link over there. If you want to follow me, that will mean a lot. But enough about me. Today is all about Power BI, and let's take a look at the agenda. So that was the introduction. I will begin with shortly talking about Power BI as a part of the Power Platform. So where does Power BI fit in the Power Platform family from Microsoft? And then we will talk about Power BI Desktop and the service, since those are the 2 main pillars of Power BI. And later on, I will jump into short demonstration on how we can connect data sources to Power BI. Today, we will see Excel and CSV files, but I will also shortly demonstrate SharePoint lists, because these are the most common data sources that you will use, especially when you begin with Power BI. Later on, you might go to Dataverse or SQL databanks, SAP, and so on and so forth. But I think that's a little bit too expert level for the beginners. And we will see how we can prepare and transform the data with Power Query. I will also explain what Power Query is. We will also get to know the desktop application from Power BI, how it looks like, what is where, and what does what, in general. And we will take a look on how we can create and edit relationship between tables, since that's a very important part in Power BI. And we might go on and create a couple of diagrams, showcase some data in the canvas of Power BI. The comment in the chat says it is in control panel, but I do not see. I don't know what you mean by that, Samit Kumar. Maybe you can ask again. Yeah, and then we will wrap up this call, and you can feel free to ask any questions. So let's take a look on Power BI as part of the Power Platform. So this is the Power Platform. Now the Power Platform is one of the newest software families from Microsoft. It was born from Dynamics, from the Dynamics world, with a common data service and that whole concept of how that works. And Power BI was also there. Power BI is one of the oldest applications from the Power Platform, and Microsoft separated the Power Platform from everything that was pre-existing and created the Power Platform as a software group. And we have Power BI as a business analysis. Power BI is, as it says, a business analytics tool where you can create with multiple data sources. You can describe data. You can even if you have a lot of data, you can even predict. You can do like prediction analysis and so on with Power BI. It's a very, very powerful tool. You can use Python and R analytics to go even further with your Power BI analytics, and but mainly you can visualize data. Now that's the most important part. We have a lot of data nowadays, but it is very difficult to see them because you don't have that visualization. On SharePoint or on Excel or wherever the data is, you don't have that bird view. That's from the top that you see what data you have, and that's where Power BI comes in place. But we will talk more about Power BI in a second. Power Apps is the next component of the Power Platform family. It is an application development based on low code development, but it can very fast become a high coding platform if you do really complicated stuff. And it is also split in 3 components. I didn't put them here because it's not the topic today, but Power Apps is also split in 3 components. We have the Canvas Power Apps, where you can create applications pixel perfect. You put everything in place where you want them, the drop downs, the text boxes, and so on and so forth. And that is for a mobile or desktop usage. Then you have model-driven apps. Model-driven apps are more like back end for the back office, for example, with processes and so on. It's a little bit more into the business process than to the user experience and user interface section. So Power Apps Canvas, you can do the user interface. It's perfect for the end user, and model-driven apps is more for the back office where they can see the processes, for example, new employees joining or devices handed over and so on. They can create these processes with model-driven apps. It's also pretty complicated, but very, very fast and very powerful. And the third component is Power Apps Portals. Power Apps Portals is like a portal to your customer where you can embed, and it's also like a web page. And on a Power Portal, you can use it like a portal to the customer where they can enter data, they can see dashboards, and so on and so forth. It's mostly used for external users. Then we have Power Automate, is used for workflow automation. It used to be called Flow. They changed the name to Power Automate a couple of years ago so that it fits better to this Power family, as you can see. And Power Automate, you can automate everything that has an open API. As soon as you have an open API to a software, you can call it and do the create, write, update, delete actions that everybody knows in the API world, in the web services world. Fourth and last is the Power Virtual Agents. This is also the newest member of the family, where you can. I think someone is singing. Let's see if I can mute. Mute. Okay. So the Power Virtual Agents is there for creating a chatbot. As you know, when you go into a website, you normally on the bottom right corner, a window pops up and a chatbot asks you like simple questions, and you can interact with them, and you can get data from a data source, answer pretty relatively complicated questions, But if it gets really complicated, then the Power Virtual Agent you build can redirect that user to an employee or so on. Huh? So this can also be used for a lot of cases like customer related or internal and so on. And the really cool part is that all these components are integratable with each other. So you can have Power BI built into a Power App. You can have Power Apps built into a Power BI dashboard, so that you can not only view the data in Power BI, but also have the front end where you can enter the data. You can use Power Automate in a Power App where you can trigger different flows or different actions from Power Apps. The same also from Power BI. This is pretty new, so the functionality is not 100% the same like from Power Apps, but from Power BI you can also trigger Power Automate flows. No, it's a bit limited, but they're adding more features every day. And Power Virtual Agents, of course, the same. And all these components can be integrated. Power BI, Power Apps, so on can be integrated in SharePoint, can be integrated in Teams, and so on and so forth. Dataverse is the data bank suggested from Microsoft to be used when you use the Power Platform. It's a very fast, very powerful data bank, but it's also a premium data source, which you have to pay then extra. But if you have a lot of data and then performance is very important, then Microsoft suggests that you go with Dataverse. It's also easier to maintain than, for example, SQL data bank. Also from performance points, they might be similar, but SQL data banks, you need a professional to maintain and I don't know, to create new tables and so on. Dataverse is there for it's made a little bit easier for the end user to modify and to create. It's still not as easy as an Excel table or a SharePoint list, but at the end of the day, those two are no data banks, right? Those are just small storages. All this works together with data connectors. Now, this is what makes this work, because Power Apps, if they connect to SharePoint, for example, or to any other data source, they need a data connector to do so. They cannot just talk to a SharePoint list or to an Excel table. And these data connectors are what makes that happen. How this works: the data connector gets the credentials you give when you start using them. Now, when you go to Power Apps and select SharePoint as a data source, then this data connector will be asking for your credentials, so that every time you use the app, this handshake between the Power App and the data source, the SharePoint list, can happen through the data connector, and you don't have to put your credentials every time you use the app. So data connectors are a very, very important part of the Power Platform, and I think it's a very cool feature since they can be used across the whole platform. If we use the Teams data connector, for example, in Power Apps, it's the same one that you use in Power Automate and in Power BI or in Power Virtual Agents. And if you can use it in one place, you can use it in another place. And I think it's a very, very clever solution for bringing all these data sources together. Last but not least, AI Builder. AI Builder is an artificial intelligence service from Microsoft, offered to be used in the Power Platform. Similar like what you can do with Power Automate, where you can automate different processes. You can integrate AI Builder in your Power Automate or in Power Apps, or whatever, and bring that a little bit further. So, for example, if you have a bunch of invoices coming every month inside in a shared mailbox, from different customers, and you need to categorize, to classify these invoices and put them in different sections. Take the price, for example, or the amount. Take the date. Take the customer name, and put them in another data source so that you know what invoices came, what is paid, what not. This is very difficult to do with Power Automate, because invoices cannot be all the same. When coming from different customers, maybe the price is on a different place, the date is on a different place, and so on and so forth. So you need something more intelligent, and that's why AI Builder comes in place. It can you train the model with a lot of documents, and then the model can recognize It doesn't matter where the price is or the amount or the date or the customer name. It recognizes that based on its data, based on the training it had, and any invoice that will come later on after you activate it will be then recognized and classified based on the logic you built, which is very, very cool. But it's also very, very expensive. I think it costs around $500 a month. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe for big companies, and it's worth, of course, because it saves you a lot of manual work. And yeah, that's the Power Platform family. So, but today's everything about Power BI. So we will jump now to Power BI, and not in the service yet, but we'll take a look on what Power BI has to offer and what it's all about. So, as I said, Power BI Desktop and Power BI Services next. And let's take a look on the development of business intelligence in general. In the first wave, we had BI for companies. So we had the IT, the IT was the place to go if you had, I don't know, a couple of data and you needed some knowledge or some insights based on that data to do some analytics. So normally you went to the IT and asked them to do that for you, because you didn't have any other option. And in that case, you waited a long time because IT had also other stuff to do. They had a lot of maintenance and whatever to do. So when they had time, they did your analytics and they send you back. By that time, the data was either too old or you needed to react fast, you couldn't. So something different needed to be done. And that's where the second wave came. So Service BI, where analysts came into the companies. So the companies started hiring analysts so that they are there only for data analytics. And these are still the people you have to go, or usually go when you have complicated analytics to do in your company. But there is still not always need for extreme knowledge to do analytics. For example, if you have a dashboard, for example, for a CEO or for the whole company or for a customer, of course, you need a data analyst to do something, something professional and nice. But there's also a lot of data, small data storages that you use in a department or maybe with a couple of colleagues, like a SharePoint list, like an Excel table, and so on. And you want to visualize that. So what you do next is then we came to the third wave, and that is, I wrote here wave wrong, should be an A. Wave, the third wave, which is BI for end users, which means that everyone has the power now to do its own, their own analytics. If you have a little bit of data, you have Power BI today, you can connect to that data source and create your own visualizations for maybe for your team and so on and so forth. For example, in our company, we have Power BI dashboards that is for the whole company and so on, of course. But we also have small dashboards that we use only in our business unit, in our team. We are, I don't know, a couple of people, and we have visualized, for example, our DevOps tasks. And each week we have our weekly call, and we go into Power BI and we see our weekly tasks there, and we discuss them and what needs to be done and so on. So this is this belongs in the third wave because we didn't go to any analysts. Maybe someone will say that we are the analysts, but it doesn't matter. It matters that we can leverage Power BI also for small things. That's what I want to say with that. Yeah, so as you can see, this is the Power BI desktop, and oops. And the cool stuff is that Power BI Desktop is free of charge. No? I mean, you can start with any time with Power BI Desktop. You can just install it from the Microsoft Store for free and start playing around. Almost everybody has an Excel table somewhere or Excel installed, so you can create a table and connect it to Power BI and start learning Power BI. It doesn't matter what data source you use. The only difference is that if you use SharePoint on SQL or Dataverse, it depends the data again, if you select another data source, the only difference is that how you connect to the data source. But after you've connected, usually what you do with Power BI is the same. So it doesn't matter. If you want to start learning, you can download Power BI Desktop for free and create an Excel table and start learning Power BI. And this is the Power BI dashboard, for example, is one dashboard, and it is this is then premium. As you can see, this is an example of real-time data being brought from those machines. And Power BI service is the dashboard is in the Power BI service, and the Power BI service is then you need to have a license for that. So that's then the next step after creating the dashboard in the Power BI desktop. You publish that in the service and you make it available to everybody else you choose. And this is an example of Power BI visuals. You can also make your own visualizations for Power BI, and yeah, there's no limit to that either. Power BI itself has a lot of visualizations pre-installed for you, and this should cover most of the cases that you need. But if you want to go one step further and create your own, there are possibilities out there as well. And the cool part with Power BI is that you can integrate it everywhere. You can integrate Power BI in an Excel spreadsheet. You can integrate it, as you can see on the bottom left corner, in a SharePoint site, where you can have your SharePoint colleagues or colleagues that you have share the SharePoint site with, check the dashboard together. You can integrate it in a PowerPoint presentation or in Teams. But keep in mind that everything that has to do with integrating a dashboard or a report somewhere else, except from the desktop version, it is premium. So that needs then the licensing. So there is a big confusion always. What is a report? What is a dashboard? And what's a Power BI app? So as a app, try to put it together here in simple English and with a couple of bullet points. We have the Power BI report. The report can have multiple pages. So as you can see at the bottom, they have multiple pages in that report. And it can have multiple data sources, of course. And it can, after it has been published to the service, it can be embedded everywhere, like SharePoint sites and so on and so forth. And it is extremely customizable, so you can make it almost like a Power App canvas. You can make it pixel perfect the way you want it. Then we have Power BI dashboards. The dashboards are a one-pager, so it's only one page. You cannot have multiple pages. But the cool thing with dashboards is that you can get multiple tiles from multiple reports in that dashboard. For example, you have 3-4 different reports. One report is for finance, one is for marketing, one is for that and that. And you want to create a dashboard for your CEO or your manager. And the manager doesn't want to jump from report to report to see what he needs or she needs. So you bring the most important visualizations, tiles from all those reports. You bring them together in one dashboard. And that is the purpose of a dashboard. It is not that customizable on regards of making it pretty and so on, but it is yeah, you can bring multiple tiles from multiple reports in one dashboard, and that's very helpful, especially for the top level management. And then we have the Power BI application. The Power BI application is suggested to be used for the end user, but I will come to that in a second. The difference here is that in a Power BI app, you can have multiple reports and dashboards in one place. So as you can see, I hope you can see in the image on the right, the first one is a dashboard. The second one is a report, and it has 3 pages, team scoreboard, a scorecard, industry margin, and so on and so forth. And this is now all in one application. And this can also be embedded in Teams or SharePoint and so on. So if you want to bring everything together, you can do that then with a Power BI app. And these are the sharing options. So if we then at this point if we're talking about reports and dashboards and apps, we are always talking about the premium functionalities. If you have Power BI Premium or Pro, as you can see on the left-hand side, that is the dashboard. You can share to view, but not to edit, because we have there are three different options that are suggested if you want to share a dashboard. You can either, so when you have Power BI Pro, you get a workspace which is called My Workspace, private workspace, and that's where you can publish your report or dashboard, for example. But that is only for sharing with someone else. You cannot allow someone else to edit that report if it's in your private workspace. So that is suggested only to be used for individual, for personal use, and it's not suitable if you want to do like group development. If you have like multiple developers or analysts working on the same report, it is not suggested that you put those reports in your private workspace. Then you can create, extra workspaces, and then you can share them with the developers, for example. When you create a workspace, you can have multiple dashboards and reports in that workspace, and then by sharing the workspace, you then share everything that it's included in that workspace. So also another plus on the workspace instead of the private workspace is that instead of having to share each report one by one, because you cannot share your private workspace, you can only share the report that's in there. You can have an extra created workspace and then share the whole workspace with the people you decide. No? And then we have the Power BI application, which you can share as well. And it is suggested that if you want to have like a development and production environment where you develop the Power BI reports in one place and then you publish them in another place for the end users, it is suggested that you have a shared workspace with your analysts, and then you can share the workspace and give them also edit rights, so that they can edit the reports, and the reports that are created then in that workspace can then be published in the Power app. In a Power BI app. So this is like how we can do that separation between development and production, because in Power BI we don't have the environments we have in Power Apps or Power Automate. Cool. Actually, that was the a general overview of Power BI, and now I will like to jump to Power BI itself and show you how it looks like. So this is, if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat. I have it open here, so I'll try to answer. As you can see, this is the Power BI desktop application, and here is the this is so I call it canvas now, where the visualizations will end up. And on the left-hand side, we have here the report or canvas section. We have the data section. Here you can also have an overview of your data. And here's the relationships segment. But we don't have any data connected yet, so we cannot see anything there. At the top, there are a couple of settings and modifications we can do, like inserting visuals. You can here's the Power Apps and Power Automate option, text, buttons, and everything you need. This is the modeling ribbon, where you can have like measures and parameters and so on and so forth. Here's also where you set up the role level security, but I think that's a little bit too advanced for today. And here's also where you can change the theme of your dashboard so that it looks like the way you want. And you can even create your own themes, and you can spend a lot of time doing this stuff. On the right-hand side, we have three main panels. We have the filters pane. We have the visualizations pane with the basic visualizations that Power BI offers at the beginning. But here with these 3 dots, we can go on and get more visualizations from the Power BI store. Now, there are a lot of visualizations here that are created from third-party companies or people, and they are Power BI certified if they have this blue check mark here. This is, for example, not Power BI certified. It's up to each one of you if you want to use a certified one or not. And when you select a visualization, you click it and it lands on the canvas. You can move it freely. You can resize it, and we have then, if you select it, we have then 3 options here at the bottom. We have the fields, the formatting, and also the analytics. The analytics is maybe a little bit too complicated for today, but these 2 are the most important. The fields is where the data is going to land so that the visualization can show something. And the formatting is, it doesn't have anything now because it doesn't have any data, but usually you can edit here how the data looks like, now the visualization. And on the far right side, we have the fields. This is also called, here it's called fields because these are the fields, but this is where the data tables that we connect to the Power BI desktop application are being shown later on. And if we then go to transform data, we have the other part of Power BI. So Power BI is split in 2 main sections. We have, I call it the front end, which is where we were at the moment, where we create the visualizations, the relationships, and so on. And we have the back end. The backend is the Power Query. The Power Query is a very powerful ETL where you can transform, connect to data sources, transform data, clean data, prepare the data, and so on and so forth, and then combine tables, for example, and many more options. Let's make this bigger. As you can see here, we have the transform section where you can run your R and Python scripts. A lot of options here. We'll see in a second. And what happens here is that after you've prepared the data, then you select close and apply, and then you somehow, not post, but you then move that into the front end. Then all the changes you made are then in the front end here on this section, and then you will see them on the right hand side, your tables, and you can then start visualizing the data or creating the relationships and so on. So if you don't have any questions, I will start and connect to a data source. I can do it either from the front, get data. Let's do it from there. And this is the data connectors. These are the most common data sources that you can use. As you can see here, we have Excel, Power BI data sets. So you can even post a Power BI report data set in Power BI service and then let the users use that data set for creating other reports. You can do a lot of stuff with that. Dataverse, we talked about that. SQL servers, text CSV, web. So you can even scrap from websites. OData is if you have, for example, an API from another third-party application, you can connect to that with OData using an API key. And here to select more, it will open up the detailed connectors. And as you can see, there's a lot there. We can scroll down and you can see that the most common applications are available, like IBM, SAP, and so on and so forth. But if you want to connect to a specific one, you can use an API with the OData fit. And so to begin with, I will go on and use the file section and connect to a text CSV data source. And let me find it real quick. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. So I'm connecting now to a CSV file. And as you can see, Power BI I selected CSV file, so Power BI also knows that it is a CSV file. But as you can see here, after connecting with it, it will show up in a preview window, and it will show the first, I don't know, 200 rows. No, those are not 200, but it will show a couple of rows that you know that this data is correct. And it is already put in a table format for me. And now I have a couple of options here. I can either load this data into the front end, as I called it, of Power BI, but then I need to be sure that the data is in the way I need it, no? Because if the data is in a format or whatever that I cannot use yet, I should not immediately load the data, but I should go and transform the data first. And that's where we're going to go now, and this will bring us then in the Power Query, because that's where we transform the data. As you can see, the front end is waiting. Now there are pending changes in a query that haven't been applied. We leave it as it is because we're now working in the Power Query. And as you can see here, the data has loaded and it is being previewed here. I can keep scrolling. As at the bottom here, it says 999 plus rows. So it is pretty fast. On the left-hand side, we can see the sales. That's a CSV file called the table. This is the sales table. And we have here the columns that were recognized. And they were also automatically formatted based on what column that is, what data that is from. It was automatically recognized from Power BI. And on the right-hand side, we have here the query settings. Here's the name of the table. We can rename this to looks a little bit better, sales. And at the bottom or below, we have the applied steps. This is a very powerful and pretty cool feature in Power BI. You are obviously familiar with the undo button that we have in various Office applications like Word or Excel, where you can write something and you can do undo because you make a mistake or whatever. And this is the same concept, but a little bit more advanced, because here you can always see. Any question? Okay, because here you can always see your applied steps. I think someone's trying to say something, or okay, maybe not. So here you can always see your applied steps. No? So everything you did in the dashboard, you can see them here, and you can jump back to that step. So we are now in this step because it's highlighted, and Power BI did these two steps for us. No? So what it did is, after we connected to the data source, no, you can see it here. We have also this gear. This shows us where the data source is, no, and what the file is, and so on. The delimiter is in a comma because the comma separate the values. And the next step is promoted headers. As you can see here in the first step, the headers from the CSV file are in the first row, and Power BI automatically promoted the headers, so we put them as headers of the columns. And here's also a gear, so that it is asking, this is a step it took. We can go there and change the settings and change that step, promote all scalar types, promote all the text and number types, and so on and so forth. So this is very, very powerful, and we will see further on that this can be very useful. So next, what I want to do is, as you can see here, we have this zip column, and because Power BI does know that zip is a real place, it recognized it as numbers, as a whole number. As you can see here, this is where you set the format of the column, and Power BI automatically formatted this column as a whole number. And what whole number does is that it removes the leading zeros. So if we have like a 0 in front of the number, or as the first number, it will be removed because zeros doesn't bring any value to the number. But because this is a zip file, or not a zip file, but it's a zip column for the zip address, we need those zeros because they play a role in the address. And for that reason, we need to format this column to text so that it will keep the zeros. As you can see now, it is asking if you want to replace the current. this question will pop up every time the last action or the last step on the right-hand side was similar. For example, we have here the third step that Power BI automatically took was to change the types of the columns, not change typesets there. So what it did is it loaded the data, promoted the headers, and it recognized, aha, this is a whole number, this is a date because it's formatted like that. This is a whole number as well because there are all the numbers there. This is a number. This is a a decimal number because it has commas. So that's what Power BI did, and it put there as an applied step, change type. And because we're doing the same step, it's asking if you want to add this as a new step or replace the current. I will add this as a new step. And we can see here now this says ABC. And we have this formatted on the other side. So this is now on the left-hand side of the column because it is text. And we can see on the right-hand side change type because this is the step I just took. You can also rename these steps so that you know I changed type for zip, no? So that you can know now, okay, this is the step I took, and maybe 10 weeks later you can jump here and you reverse it or whatever, so that you can always keep track on that. So as you can now see, if we can connect to another data source, we can grab maybe like an Excel file. If you go here, I can either go to Excel workbook or go to more and then see all my connectors. And we have here Excel connect. And I have here another table. It's now going to pop up here. And since my Excel, maybe I can open it here 1 second. So trying to open the Excel table so that you can see how it looks like in Excel, and maybe you can see the difference then on Power BI. So this is my Excel table. It has here and 3 pages. It has the product, which is 1 page, and this is a table in the page product. So keep that in mind. Then we have the manufacturer. This is yes, a horizontally formatted, not a table, but the horizontally formatted looks like a table. Then we have here row 5 and 6 are empty, and then we have at row 7 we have also some information, and we'll take a look in a second how that looks like in Power BI. Then we have here geography. This is also this is not a table, and we have here the first 2 rows have some information. Then we have row 3 is empty, and then row 4 is the header, and here's our data. So if we now go to Power BI, we will see that we have 4 instead of 3. Why? Because in the product page, this is the page, because it's formatted like it has this little page icon, and this is a table icon. So it recognizes that in the product page, we have the product table inside. So now we just select the product table because we don't need to select the page. Otherwise, we would have to format that anyways. And we can select the geo and manufacturer as well. So we can have this, we can have 3 tables inserted at once. Select OK. This will now load the 3 tables on the left-hand side. And if you, as you can see here, this is the product table that we had in Excel. Oh, yeah, I also want to show you something in the product table. As you can see here, we have this mix of category. So if you see here, these are all blank values or empty values. And in Excel, this makes sense because you think, okay, mix, it begins with mix, and everything that is below, it belongs to mix. And also here is rural, this belongs to this one, and so on and so forth. But Power BI doesn't know that because it's not an intelligent human being. So it sees empty values and it places a null, as you can see here. And you should always try to eliminate null values because this can manipulate your data. So we'll see that in a second. Then we have the geo. This is our geography page. As you can see here, these are the first two rows, which had some information. No, the first one had information. The second one was empty. And these are the headers here. And then we have the data below. And in the manufacturer, this is where we had this horizontally formatted table looking. And then we had two empty rows here, and then we had some data on the sixth row. So Power BI has taken everything. Now it doesn't know what it is. It just sees data, puts it in there. Everything that's empty, it leaves it away. But yeah, so you should never load this into the front end because you cannot work with this data. So that's why you always have to go, in my opinion, to the Power Query and make sure that your data is in the proper format. And another source that I would like to show you is you can even bring a complete folder. Now we have here the option to bring a folder with the data, so you don't have to bring every data source that is in there or every table one by one. You can grab the whole folder. And so in my case, I will browse for the folder path. Mm-hmm. 1 second. International sales. That's my folder path. Select OK. And as you can see here, we have a couple of CSV files. I can show you that also in my browser. So in the here, as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 CSV files. You can see here CSV file, and that's what Power BI sees as well. And what we can do here, Power BI offers you the option to either transform the data. So this will bring then 6 new tables in the Power Query. You cannot load it directly in the front end. So you can either transform the data by bringing 6 tables, or you can combine and transform the data, which in this case would make sense because Power BI sees that these CSV files are the same formatted and offers you the option to combine them and then have all the data in one place, because you can then later on work with filters. So you don't have to have 6 separate tables for that. So select now combine and transform data. And this will bring up like a preview of the data. No, the combined data. As you can see here, we have the Australia, and we cannot scroll anymore because it's just a preview. But we will see in a second that the data has been combined. No? Yeah, we select then OK. And after a while, we can see here on the left-hand side, we have now a new table called international sales. And this is for our this has now our combined data. And how we can prove that is that if you go to the country column and select this drop down, we have here that similar Excel filtering, no, from that we know from Excel. And here it says list may be incomplete. It's only showing Australia because to save memory, Power BI always loads a limited amount of data. So if you want to see the whole data and filter on that, you have to load more. And this now it's pulling the whole data in the preview here, or at least the distinct. No? And you can see that we have now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 countries to select from. So this is our combined data. And here we have also that zip column. As you can see on the right-hand side, Power BI has already done some clever stuff on its own. What we don't like is that zip is again formatted as a whole number. So I will go on and format this as text. And in this time I will replace the current change type. As you can see here, change type did not create a new step. Comment in the chat. Can you please little bit zoom your screen? Unfortunately, I cannot. I don't know if I can zoom here. Can I zoom here? No, I cannot zoom here. But in Teams meetings, I don't know how it's in webinars. If you hold Control and use the mouse scroll, you can then zoom into the preview. Just give it a try. Unfortunately, I cannot zoom into this. Yeah. So that's it with our zip column. We format it as text, and what we can do here is we can eliminate some this source punct dot name. For example, we have here the Australia, the CSV, and so on. This is pretty much the same like the country. It's just the source name. So what we can do here, we can either right click and select remove. You can remove it from here, and we can remove the column, or we can select delete on our keyboard. It does the same. And then we have eliminated that column since we don't need it. Sahin, did you manage to zoom in?
What is written in your file?
Sorry?
Actually, I'm not able to see in the clear your picture.
It's not clear?
Yeah, it's not clear.
Okay, is it for everybody else though?
I'll be able to see.
Yeah, it's too small to read and see.
Small, but
Yeah, it's small.
Control and.
But can you zoom in?
Yeah, I have zoomed fully.
Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, I am in a very big screen. I think that looks weird in a webinar. I'm sorry, I cannot change it.
And no, okay, not a problem.
It's okay.
You
It's
continue.
okay.
So yeah, where was I? Yeah, so next we'll take a look at the manufacturer table. No, sorry, the product table. We have here the one I showed you at the beginning or before, where we have that mix option. As you can see here, mix and then rural. The Power BI has made this as null values. And what we can do here is we can transform this this column, and we can use the fill option. So the fill option will fill the null values with the value that it is above. So we can either fill down or fill up. So fill down, I think this has also an explanation. It says fill down cell values to neighboring empty cells in the currently selected columns, which just means if you fill down, it will select the first value and then fill down until the next value comes. You need to be careful because if you want to fill up, this will make the data have a different, this will change the data, because if you fill up here from rural, everything above will have the rural category. But we want, actually doesn't make sense because as we saw in Excel, everything from below mix has that category. So what we do here is we fill down, and as you can see, everything was filled with that category. And where rural started at the rows 46, it filled out with rural, and then it continued with the next one, and so on and so forth. So now we don't have any null values anymore, as you can see in the filtering. So this is important so that you don't have any null values in your in your tables. Next, I want to show you is we have this column here, product. Now, as you can see, I hope you can see, the product column is saying something about the segment, maybe, and then on the right hand side, maybe the something different. Now it looks like two information in one column because we have a vertical line here splitting these two informations. And what we can do is we can split this column. And as you can see here at the above, we have in the transform ribbon, we have the split column functionality. And here you can select if you want to split by the delimiter, you can split by the number of characters. If, for example, your first characters are always the same, you can do that by numbers. You can do by positions, by lowercase, and so on and so forth. You have a lot of information options here. We're going to use the delimiter option because we have a delimiter, and in our case, the delimiter is that vertical line. And here you can select or enter the delimiter. In the dropdown, you can select some of the most common delimiters like colon, comma, semicolon, and so on and so forth. In our case, this is a custom one. So we have to enter it here at the bottom. And I'm going to do that now. This is this vertical line. And in the advanced options, this is also something I want to show you, since many people don't know this, you can split this column either to another column or to rows. So if you have, in our case, we will split it in another column because we want this data to be next to each other. But sometimes you have like a list of tags, no? Like one information, then semicolon, another information, semicolon, another one, and you want to use these three informations that was in this separated with semicolon. You want to use them in a filter, yeah? And to do so, you need to have them below each other. You cannot filter if you have them next to each other in different columns. So in that case, you will split that column into rows and not into columns. But there is a downside on that. If you are planning to do that in a table or where you don't have duplicates, this will create duplicates then. No? So you have to keep that in mind. So I will continue and leave it as this column. Select OK. And as you can see, it created two columns. One has the first section, and the second one has the second section. And my delimiter now is gone, no? Because I don't need that anymore, and that was just for separating. And I can go on and rename these columns by double click. I can either double click on the header and it allows me to rename, or I can right click and say rename, and this will be my product. This is the product, and this is the segment. Doesn't matter, but yeah, that's how you can also rename that column. So another option on how you can split a column is by creating a new column based on examples, and this is pretty cool. So what you can do, we have, for example, this column here called price. This is formatted as text. You can see here text ABC, because it has the currency in front. So it says US dollar, and it has a space, and then it has the currency, the amount, the price. So if you want to split this, you can do it by split column and then give the space, no? And then it will work also well. But sometimes you need to have it a little bit more dynamic, and that's where we can use the add column option. Or we can go to the add column ribbon at the top, and then we have on the left-hand side column from examples. Now it says use examples to create a new column in this table. And if you select this dropdown, I always suggest, if you are new to Power BI, use this dropdown next to these options. You can also click directly in the name in the option here. But if you are sure what you need, you can go on and click directly there. I always suggest, if you are new and you are learning Power BI, always go to the dropdown, because there are more options here. As you can see, you have more options here. Here also options. And if you click on that, it will always take the first option. So if you're sure, go on and click there. If you're not sure and you need to see what options are there, you go always on that small drop down next to the option name. So anyways, here we have two options: from all columns or from selection. So Power BI will either look at all the columns in this table and then create the new column based on the examples we give. It will only look on this on this column. So I will select from selection. So this, as you can see here, Power BI created on the right-hand side a new column, and on the left-hand side my table with the rest of the columns. And here I can give the name of the column. So this will be my currency or whatever. Let's do it price 2. And here I can go to the row. Now I can click on the row where I want to go, and then I have to write something so that Power BI knows what I'm trying to tell it. And what I want to do here is I want to start writing 412. And as you can see, Power BI, since it is looking in this column, it found that 412 USD dot 13 is coming from the price column. And if I select here, it will create a copy of this column. But I don't want to do that. I only want to have the price. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to completely write the first price for 12.13 and then select enter. And as you can see, Power BI recognized, the user only needs the numbers from this column. And it populated now everything, or it got everything from this column. What's the number? And this is my new column. So select OK. I now have a new column, which is it has only the price, and I can format this to a fixed decimal number because this is a dollar amount. And as you can see now, it is on the right-hand side. It has a comma for the separation, and this is my price coming from this column. And what I can also do is I can grab the USD as well. So I want also the currency. So you can either go here and select a column from examples. You can right click and you can select the add column from examples. It's the same. Now this will, but as I said, this will now go directly and look at this column that you selected because you right click it on this column. If I cancel that and go here and select now from all columns, Power BI will mark all these columns in the table. And if I write USD, it will find USD because this in this column. But if I write mix, it will also find mix because this in this column. If you select only from one column the examples, then if I write mix, it will not find anything because it's looking only on that specific column. Now that this is the difference. So you can combine information. Anyways, I will go on and write USD and select enter. And as you can see, it grabbed all the text from that column and put it in here. This is a preview, so I cannot scroll all the way, but yeah, we are sure that we got what we need. And this is our currency. Select OK. And now we have splitted this column into columns. I can remove the columns wherever I want. I can have them in front so that is as it was. And I renamed this price too because you cannot have the same name of the column in one table. So what we can now do is we can delete this column because, oops, I went and removed one too much. So we'll delete that one. And because Power BI doesn't need that anymore. Power BI has the information it needs. It knows that when this column is coming from a data source, I need to split it this way, and I don't need that redundant column anymore. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click here and rename this to price. So, any questions so far? Okay. And also something else I want to show you is that this may be a little bit too advanced for today, but we have here at the top the advanced editor. And if you select that, this is where Power BI writes down every step we take in a programmatic way. As you can see here at the top, we have the source. I don't know if you can read it. I cannot zoom in. Sorry, but it says the source where the data source is, and then blah blah, puts the columns everywhere, and we have here, for example, we have here all the stuff we did. Table rename columns, for example. We rename product 1 to product. After we split the table with that vertical line, we renamed it. And here's the step. Product 1, we renamed it to product. Product 2, we renamed it to segment. Yeah, here I renamed the price 2 to price, and so on and so forth. Now, these are all the steps we took. So what you can do if you want, you can go here and programmatically enter the steps you want to take in Power BI one day when you are an expert. So next, I want to take a look at the geography table, because here we also had a couple of issues. As you can see at the top, we have this row here, which has some data. And the second row is empty. And then the third row is our headers, which belongs here at the top. And what we can do here is we can select these options in the home ribbon, remove rows. And we can select either remove top rows or bottom rows. I'm going to select the top rows, and you can give here the number of rows. Now we have these two that we don't need, so I'm going to give here number 2. Select OK. And as you can see, the top 2 rows are now gone. I have this row, which is my headers, and I need these to be at the top. What I'm going to do is we have here still in the home ribbon, use first row as headers. If you select the drop down, you can see that you have more options. Use first row as headers or use headers as first row. You can even downgrade the headers as a first row. So what I mentioned before is that if you click here, it will automatically do the first option. But if you want to see if you need this option, then you should always go to the drop down. Otherwise, no, that's why I'm saying if you know what you're doing, you can always click there. But I always suggest you go through over the drop down and select then the option you need. So we have now our the extra rows we eliminated. We don't need them anymore. And we have here our headers promoted. And here our zip column needs to be formatted to text again. And I will replace the current since that was formatted as whole number. And now if we go to the manufacturer table, this was the other one, which was formatted horizontally. And here we have 1, 2, 3 rows. These 2 are empty. And this one has only this little text here, which we don't need. And this time I'm going to go with the drop down and remove the bottom rows. I'll select 3. Select then OK. And now I have these extra rows that I don't need gone. And what I want to do now is I don't want the data on my table to be horizontally. I want it to be vertically. So I need to transpose move it, turn it around. And I can do that by going to the transform ribbon. And here you have the option to transpose. And it says transpose this table, treating rows as columns and columns as rows. Now, if you select that, it will then switch everything. And now I have those 3 rows as columns. These were my 3 rows, and these were all my columns now are there as rows. And what we need to do here is I go to home ribbon again, and I will use the first rows as headers. And now I have my table ready to be used. So what we also can do is we can bring tables together. Now we have here the sales table where we have our product ID, the date, zip, the units, and the revenue. And we have our international sales, which has exactly the same columns, but only one extra, which is the country. Because in our international sales, we have multiple countries. And in our sales table, we have only one country, which is USA in this case. That's why it's not showing the country column at all. But what we can do here is if we decide to merge the queries, so I'm going to go here and merge queries. So I'm going to bring the international sales table into the sales table. So this one will merge these 2 tables together. And the missing column will be added to the sales table. So I can select here the keys so that it knows, okay, it has the same keys. And I select OK. This is now working. I think I made something wrong. I think I went on merge and not append. I don't want to merge, I want to append them. Sorry, that was a mistake. Let's go back and I want to append the queries. So I want to bring them together, not I want to append, which means bring the data together, not bring the tables together. Now that's a different. If you merge queries, you bring 2 tables together. And if you append the queries, is you bring the data from one table into the other table, and that's what I want to do. I don't want to have two tables having similar data. No? I want to bring them together so that I can work later on with filtering. So append queries is the one you need here, and here you can select between two tables or three tables. In this case, there are just our two tables, so sales and international sales. And here I can select the table I want to append. The sales is the current one, so I'm going to go with international sales. Select OK. And as you can see, it was pretty fast. It just appended the data. And as you can see, it says null everywhere because the first data was from USA, and USA did not have a country. So if I open this drop down and load more, this will take a while. But as we can see here, we have null, which is for USA, and the rest is for coming from the international sales. Now, so we have now extended this data source or this data table with the data from the international sales. And what I want to do next is I want to remove these null values or replace them, better said. And to do so, we can go to the transform, to the add column ribbon. And we can add here a conditional column. This is like an if condition, which it is an if condition, not like it is an if condition. You can see here if, and we can set here the condition so that the column will rename its values based on the condition we set. So this is now our country name column. This is where I put the column name, and I select the column. So if country equals value null. So if the column country has the value null, then I want it to say USA. And else, you need also an else option. This one has a drop-down as well. So you can see here, you can either enter a value. So if it's not USA, it is something that I entered here, but that will be then static. So for example, if I write there, if it's not, if it's equals USA, do USA, else do Germany. Then it will change everything that is, sorry, then it will change everything that is not null to Germany. And that's not what I need because the rest has its data. I don't want to leave it as this. So what I'm going to do here is I will select a column and I will select the country, which means if the country column has null values, write USA, otherwise write the value from the country column, which is itself. And if I select OK, it will create a new column next to it, column country name, and everywhere where it was null, it's now USA. I think it's a lot of data, so I cannot scroll that far away, that far down. But if I use the filtering here, we can see that this column should not have any null values anymore. And there it is, it loaded. We have now Australia, Canada, Germany, Japan, Mexico, Nigeria, and USA, which before we created it, it was showing as null. So that's how we eliminated the null values again. And since we have this column now, we don't need this, and I will right click and remove it. And I will rename this back to country. So this is now our our new column with all the country names in it. And again, I want to show you in the home, the advanced editor. What we just did, for example, was, the advanced editor is different for each table. So this one is for the table sales. If you go to product table, the advanced editor has different stuff. Now you cannot edit in the advanced editor for all tables. You have one advanced editor for each table. And what we did here was, we have here added conditional column, table add column, append query, and then country name, each if country equals null, then USA, else country. This is exactly what we typed in the if function. this is now in the M language, which is a Power Query language. So what I can do here, if I write, for example, instead of USA, I write USAA, and then select done, it will replace everything. So you can programmatically change your data here for the settings you set. And it's very fast, as you can see. Something else I want to show you is the filtering option in the date segment. And you have here this date column. If you can see here, we have the date filters. This is similar to Excel. We can filter the dates if you don't need that far behind 2012. We can go here and select show me in the blah, blah, blah. In the what can we show here? Is latest, maybe. It's taking a while. And it has filtered only the latest dates. No? So if I go here, I have the filter rows. I can select this gear, and then it will pop up the filtering that I just created. I can remove the filtering, and it will bring back everything else. Or you have all kinds of options here. And we can have here, for example, in the previous 4 years. Show me that's just the last 4 years. I select OK, and as you can see here, we have 17, 18, 19, I think 20, 21. I don't have any data. So this is for example, how you can filter the dates. Something else I want to show you is if you go to the view section, we have here the query dependencies. If you select that, this is where here, I think here I can zoom in. Yeah, as you can see here, this is how you can get an overview of where your data is coming from. We have here at the top my C drive users and so on. This is where the data has been loaded. Here's the international sales. This is where the other one is coming from, and the sales. Here's the other section which has product, geo, and manufacturer. International sales and sales, we merged them, we appended them so that it's showing in the same place. And this is a very helpful overview of your data source. So what we do next, after we've finished editing our data, we are finished here. We go here and select close and apply. And what this will do is we'll bring now all the changes, we'll load them in the front end where we can start putting together our visualizations. This takes a while. As you can see, the more data you have, the more it will take, but this is always in the beginning, so later on it should be a bit faster. This is the first time it's loading it in the front. And it looks like it's finished. But delete this one. We can see now here on the right hand side, we have our tables, and we can see them here as well in the data section. Here is our data. We can create here also new columns, new tables, and so on. And here is our relationships overview. Here you can move this freely. You have here the sales table. This is the product table. the manufacturer table, international sales, and the geography. Geography doesn't have a relationship yet. It's just floating here on its own. And we can see that the product table has a relationship to 3 other tables. And what relationship that is, we can see it here in this line. We can see here the number 1 and the star, which means this is a one-to-many relationship between the product table and international sales. In relational data bank, we have different relationships. We have a one-to-many, many-to-many, and one-to-one. It is always suggests that you use a one-to-many relationship, so you have like a one table where you have no duplicates and another table where you have duplicates, so that you can use that distinct table to filter everything else. Now, in this case, this table filters in a one-to-many relationship, the international sales and the sales. What we could do is also we can disable one of these because this is the same data actually, but I didn't do that now. And we also have the manufacturer and this has a one-to-many in this direction because we have one manufacturer and that has many products. That's why it has one-to-many here. And the way you can create or remove relationships is here, for example, you can, if you go with a mouse over it, you can right click and delete it. Now this will remove the relationship from that table. And if you want to recreate it, you can select here, for example, I have here the product ID and here as well. If you can drag and drop that field on the other table, and this will either automatically create this relationship, or if it doesn't know what relationship you want to do because it is not obvious that this is a one-to-many relationship, it will prompt you with a window asking so that you can select if that is what the relationship you want to build. And we can do this as well here if we double click. This is the edit relationship window where we can edit the relationship. Here's the table we have selected. Here's a second table. The product ID is the keys for our relationship. Here we have the cardinality. We have many-to-one, one-to-one, one-to-many, and also many-to-many. Yeah, that's the one I missed. And the cross-filtering direction, this is single, or you can also have both. Single means you always filter in a one-to-many relationship. You always filter from the one table direction to the many table. You cannot filter on the other way around, or you can have both ways so that you can filter from both, but not only from the many to one. That's not allowed. Yeah, so that's how you can create relationships, and you can edit relationships. And if we test it, we can now go into our report or canvas, and we can select one visualization, as I said before, click on it, and it will put it in the front here. And now we can go into our tables, and we can grab, for example, the country here and put it in one of these fields. You can drag and drop, and you can see that now it's doing something. And we have here the international that was international sales country. We can have here the product table, for example, and we can have here the price. This is not doing anything because the relationship is not fixed. It's showing everything similar. I think it's a little bit too advanced now to go on and fix those, but actually, if you have the data prepared the right way, it should then show the right way as well. But this is how you pull the data into the visualization. And yeah. I also want to show you real quick how you can connect to another data source, and that is SharePoint, because I think SharePoint is also a very common data source. That's on under online services. We have the SharePoint online list. Select connect. And here it is now expecting from the site URL. If I go quickly and grab it. 1 second. So I can find it now. Here it is. So I have here a SharePoint list, and if I grab the root, I can paste it in here. So it only needs the root. It doesn't need the whole SharePoint list link. It will throw an error if you put the whole link. If you select OK, it will now try to connect to SharePoint. And it's already did because I'm logged in, as you can see on my Power BI. And these are my SharePoint lists. So it also recognizes them as tables. And let's take that one, for example, and transform the data. And as you can see in a second, it is pretty much the same as we did with Excel. So that's what I meant at the beginning. The way you connect to a data source will depend, will change, but after you've connected, it is pretty much the same. So I don't have a lot of data here. As you can see, Power BI SharePoint has a lot of data behind. In a SharePoint list, you might have, for example, only a couple of columns, but the SharePoint list also has a lot of data behind. So Power BI will connect to everything. And what you can do here in this case is you can go and instead of removing one column, you can remove other columns. This will remove everything except of what you have marked, but you can also go here and say choose columns. And this will provide you with a list of the columns you have in your SharePoint. I usually go and deselect everything, and I go and select what I need. Project name, customer name, budget, start dates, I know what else I have here. I have a couple of columns. That should be enough. And select OK. And this will eliminate everything else and only keep the ones I need. And from here, you can start. You can go then close and apply. This will load now the data in the front. It was only not that much of data, so it went fast. And there is my table, PMO demo. I can visualize that the same way I did with Excel. So I don't know what I can put here, customer name and cost. Yeah, since it's the same table, it will show it this way. But yeah, that's what I want to show you real quick, that it doesn't matter what data source you use. The important part is you know how you clean and prepare your data, and yeah, then you're good to go. So that's it, I think. I don't know what time is it. Yeah, half an hour earlier than thought. Yeah, I set it up for 2 hours so that we can yeah, we can then have any questions answered. If you have any questions, this was a very, very beginner level and just an overview so that you can get to know Power BI. It's no deep dive. So if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and we can have a chat. Otherwise, I will upload this video on my YouTube channel, and you can see it from there if you need anything else.
Yeah, hi. Actually, I have one question.
Sure.
Okay. There are any limitation if I'm using a business plan?
What do you mean by business plan? You mean like E3 or E5?
Yes, right.
Yeah. So you have limitations. You can only pull up to 1 gigabyte of data in one data set. With E5, you have also Power BI Pro. With E3, you need Power BI Pro Extra. So I don't know what license you have, but that's the main limitation for now. But you need a lot of data to come up with 1 gigabyte, so that's not that easy.
Okay, 1 gigabyte for a one data set, right?
For one data set, yeah.
Yeah,
So you
that's
have
fine.
if you have Power BI Pro, you can create for your account for that workspace. No? You have 1 gigabyte maximum limit per data set, and you have 10 gigabytes maximum for that workspace. So that you can, if you have 10 reports with each 1 gigabyte of data set, you can have 10 reports. But that will be very, very big reports. No? So not.
All right. But there is any way where I can 2 or 3 developer work on a one report or one Power BI app?
Yeah, so as I said here, this is the way I suggest you can do it, because in Power BI you don't have those environments like you have in Power Apps and so on. You cannot have a production or development test environment. In Power BI, I suggest you that you have a workspace created for development. You upload the report in that workspace, and you can share it then with other people so that they can edit that report. But you cannot work on the same report at the same time, if that's what you mean. But that's where you can develop together, and after the development has been finished, you can then publish it into a into a Power BI application.
Okay, fine. And just one last request. Okay, can you show us how can we create a dashboard in Power BI?
I can, but I was thinking of doing a second one because it's getting late also for you.
Yeah, you are right.
I think that is a completely new segment, so that will then begin like a completely new webinar. So that because it's a lot more.
No, that's fine. Okay, we can conduct it later.
Yeah, I will organize another one next year, and I will do a deep dive into Power BI and also the reports in the service. So I can show you how you can create a dashboard, how you can create a workspace, how you can create a Power BI application, and so on.
Yeah, sure, no issue. I'm just waiting for that lecture.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for your questions. Anybody else? Okay, then I think we are done for today. I will post the link to to my website, LinkedIn, and YouTube channel. If you want to subscribe, that will be very cool, so that you can see the video also that I will upload later on. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm very active there. And yeah, thanks for joining. Thanks for your time. I hope you learned something today, and catch you on the next one.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ania.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.